Hey, this is Danaé and welcome to the Weekly Reid. Boom, that was it. Hey guys, this is Danaé and thank you so much for coming back to watch another episode of the Weekly Reid. As you might have noticed, I didn't post anything last week and that's my bad. Something is like colluding against me and so I wasn't able to post my show because the SD card is gone somehow, but we are back. And as you see, I have a new guest with me and I'm going to let her introduce herself and a topic and then we're going to get into the show. So, yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Chlesea. I'm a Howard grad and I'm a millennial who's confused about life. I'm currently looking for a job still, but I think I might go to grad school, so I don't know what's happening in life, but that's what's going on. And today we're talking about growing up black in the suburbs.
Cool. So why do you say you're like confused about life?
Because I feel like growing up, you're told that college is a choice, like it's not a choice, it's mandatory to go. So I went to college, great time, but I still don't know who I want to be or what I want to do in life.
Right.
I know I'm supposed to get a job, make money, but I went to school of communications as a PR major, and I just got confused. And I started working retail because I had student loans, government, and Sally Mae, who's the devil. Like it's not cool at all.
Right.
So I just don't know, and I feel like there's a bigger purpose for me in life. And I thought I wanted to like do communications, but I think I'm more so on the education side because it's so messed up in this world, and so many people do not have the same opportunities as me.
Right.
So that's what I want to do.
So do you think your experience, because we went to high school, the same high school, do you think your experience in Abington has fueled your decision to want to pursue education?
No, not at all. My mom is a teacher. She's a kindergarten teacher, so to me, she just instilled that education is really important. And to see that different things, like in Abington, they're like, we have a great education system, and she worked in the Philadelphia School District, and you see
like the difference.
You see the difference, but then you go back to the suburbs, kids in suburbs, especially the black kids, and you see that they're not doing well in school. And it's not because they're not like learning anything, it's because they're not applying themselves. Because we are just as smart as our peers.
Right.
And they're just caught up into being quote unquote cool, or that cool black kid, or that cool black girl, and it just doesn't work out. So I just want to see, I never understood those kids. So in high school, I was considered one of the smartest girls. I'm just normal, I'm average. I just did my homework. That's it. And people come saying, you're so smart. And I was like, no, that's because I listen to teachers and everything. So that's where I think education is so important to me.
Well, I really think it's interesting that you like pointed out that a lot of black children, especially like in the suburbs, or at least where we come from, like thought that it was cool not to like do good in school, because I fell under that same umbrella for like a little bit, and I don't know why, but I think like a lot of African American students fall under that for some reason. Like it's not cool to be smart, and I wonder why that is.
I don't know why. I just feel like you want to be validated in some way. So I can't speak on the black boy experience, but for a black girl, I guess you just want to feel validated, you just want to be cool, you just want to be pretty and popular. And at the same time, though, it wasn't, because I would be in honors classes, you were in honors classes to an AP, I would get said like, oh, you're cool for a black girl, or you're pretty smart for being a black girl. Yes, I remember sitting in 10th grade, it was honors history, and this white boy turned around, he said, thank you for not being black today. And I looked at him, I was like,
what?
Me now, that's a curse off bat. But me in high school, I was just like, what? You're welcome? Like, it didn't make sense to me.
It's really hard, like, to know what to do in those types of situations, because, like, in your head, you're like, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna do this, and and then, like, you get there, and you're just like, did you really just say that to me?
So many times, and I would say, Abington, well, demographics in Abington, like, it's almost 80% white, 12% black, and
accurate,
and whatnot. So
what's that, like 80 plus 12? That's
nice. I said I wasn't that smart. But it's just crazy. And then you think about, then I remember applying to colleges and everything, and I will never forget what this one, she was Asian, by the way, this girl said to me, she was like, you know, affirmative action is a thing, right? So you know you're gonna get into college because you're black. This girl's Asian, y'all. She's Asian, and she had the audacity to tell me I was gonna get into college because I was black. Not because I was smart, not because I was just as good as all the other kids, it's because I was black. Honors class again.
Yeah.
But in my head, me now, I know affirmative action doesn't not only work for black people, but Asian people, but Jewish people, but and so on. So it was just so messed up in those spaces. Not saying growing up suburban was just so bad and I couldn't be black and everything, but it was just like people just seeing those weird nitpicky comments that just made me to the person who I am today.
Right.
Because I still think back, I know exactly who the girl is, and I like now to me I'm like, I can't mess with her. I still can't believe she said that to me or had that audacity.
Right.
And I would laugh in her face. We were like kiki in class, but now me I'm just like, yo, you.
Yeah, and it's crazy how like you don't forget those situations, but to them they probably like
Don't.
they said it and then it was just like whatever. I'm sure she like doesn't even think about it again, or has not thought about it again, which is interesting.
At all. And I think back on it too, I'm like, it's so messed up because then I'm like, you know what? Not, of course, saying being black and then starting to act white and so that's just like another topic. But if I think back on it, and I look at her on Instagram and everything, I don't ever see her with Asian people. Not saying you need to be with your own kind, but I'm saying I feel like she's always trying to be validated by a white person because that's all she hangs out with and stuff. So I'm like, so who's wrong in this situation? Are you not accepting your culture? Or is it me or something?
Right. So how do you feel? How do you feel growing up in the suburb as a black girl has affected you?
Not a lot because the section of Abington I live, it's predominantly black. So Abington has about 7 elementary schools, and I went to Willow Hill. So most of the kids were black and everything. But best part about Abington, every school it's just all the same education. So it's not like one person got something better than the other.
Right.
So it was just all the same.
Yeah, I think it's like more like who applied themselves and who didn't.
Exactly. Go ahead.
I was just about to say, I think for me in Abington, because like you touched on like the black girls who wanted to be so cool, I definitely like fell into a group of like people again who I don't really feel like necessarily like apply themselves so much. And the reason that I wanted to be so close with them is because, like you talked about earlier, like for 2 seconds, you mentioned that whole like black girls who talk or act white thing. I think that was like the hardest thing for me, at least, because of that, I tried so hard to be like something that I wasn't, so that like I would feel accepted by black people because I didn't necessarily feel like accepted by white people. And I think I asked you like how you feel that affected you because I think for me, it's allowed me to occupy like spaces where my race isn't the majority in a way that I might not have been able to before because I know how to like handle those types of situations. So that's why I was asking, like, do you feel like it's like helped you or hindered you or?
No, I think I tried to go against the grain at the same time so many times. Since like going to a John Black school and then also liking different things that are quote unquote not black, that's where it went for me.
Right.
So people didn't necessarily make fun of me how I talked or anything because growing up my parents would correct me and everything, but I also think people knew I wasn't the person to mess with because at the end of the day I would cut you.
Right.
Like if you try, I will like sit there and like I wouldn't have it. But at the same time though, I did hide a lot of things that I like that were I guess weird or different.
Like people considered,
and they're like, oh, that people consider like, oh, that's so white or that's so weird.
Right.
And I would say that was another thing growing up black. You had to hide yourself. If it was different, you couldn't let people know.
Right.
Or because you don't want to be made fun of.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing. And that, look at me now, I don't hide those things because I don't believe anything should stop your own joy.
And it's interesting because I would love to talk to somebody a black girl who grew up in like a predominantly black school and see if they feel the same way about having to hide like certain parts of themselves, or is that something that we do to ourselves in spaces where we're not the majority? To
feel accepted. And I think also too, coming from Willow Hill, I didn't have any white friends until I probably went to like close white friends until high school.
Okay.
Maybe junior high was when I started getting those friends, which is we're not saying I was different at all. I was trying to be accepted by them or whatsoever. It was just like the first time I was like, oh, I never met a Jewish person until I went to junior high.
Me neither. Isn't that wild?
I was so mad at every suburban stuff.
Yeah, I've never been to one either.
So mad.
But you know it's crazy because I went to Roslyn, but like Roslyn's like predominantly white, so it's just really interesting the different it's really interesting the different demographics that one area can have. But most of my friends were like white, and so I remember like one experience where I was at like a sleepover. It was like a pool party, and I was so embarrassed about my hair, and so I remember like after we got out the pool, everybody got up and like they went to take their showers, but I went home to shower because I didn't want them to see my hair. And then I remember like wetting it in the shower, and it was just like this huge poof. And then I came back, and they were like, what happened to your hair?" And so it's just it's like stuff like that it seems so small, but it really affects you like for the rest of your life.
It's big, and at the same time, they honestly want to know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I remember I was at my one white friend's house at sleepover. They're till this day, they're still really good friends of mine. And I came over my pin curls and my headscarf, and my friend was like, "I feel like we're really good friends." And I'm sorry, it's not racist. I really want to know. Does it hurt? It's in your hair. I was like, "Girl, no." I said, took my pin curls out. I said, "This is how my hair is in the morning time."
Yeah.
I said, "That's so amazing. It's so beautiful." I said, "Thank you."
Okay.
She was like, "I really want to." So they honestly are curious, and they want to ask these questions at the same time, but they're so scared of being offended.
Right.
Like offending us.
Yeah, I know what you meant. So what was your experience like going to a predominantly black school versus going to a predominantly white school? What was like the difference between
Growing up?
Mm-hmm.
I think growing up you don't realize that because you're innocent.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I didn't care for, again, not saying that black kids are not smart. Kids just didn't apply themselves. And I couldn't understand why people didn't do well on their PSSAs. That's another reason why I want to go into education policy, because some kids, especially come from and they always say it's the black kids aren't doing well, but they were lower income and we just didn't do well in PSSA. I was like, I don't understand y'all, so I was gonna advance.
Right. Yeah.
So that was like the biggest thing going there, but then coming to the junior high and everything, I felt like I was meeting people who were on my level of learning and everything. And I finally was getting challenged in those spaces, and I wasn't the smartest anymore, which was kind of good for me, but it was just different to understand. I was finally meeting people with different cultures and everything, and going to a predominantly black school and under school, to me, the white girls were the different ones.
Okay.
They were the weird ones.
Yeah.
Because they weren't like us. It was 5 of them in my grade.
Okay.
It's maybe a little bit more, but they were the weird ones growing up. And then coming to the majority, like where all the filtered school, where all the kids go to, I realized it was few black kids, and we all were trying to prove our blackness. At this 7th grade, I went through my quote unquote ghetto phase, which it wasn't ghetto. I was just trifling.
Yeah, no,
it was just it wasn't
I was
ghetto.
so trifling. Because mine came later than 7th grade, but like I just look at my pictures and I'm like, my weave was disgusting. I was loud in the hallway, even though I hated girls like
being
that.
loud. I hate those people, but I was one of those like screaming.
And like it's sad because I feel like sometimes, like you said, like you feel like you kind of have to be. But so going from like a predominantly white high school to college, that's kind of what I was like going.
That went to So
because you went to Howard.
Yeah. So from that point, I was the girl who loved Taylor Swift, loved High School Musical.
Do you like Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I love Taylor Swift.
Do you?
I do. She's like, I love her.
Something new about you.
So people didn't understand why I was going to Howard.
Okay.
Howard just happened for me. Growing up, having a large black family who
Very
was
large.
I have my cousins from the hood, and then my super uppity cousins. Like to me, I was just like, it was whatever. I was like, I'm going to Howard. It's cool and everything. I wanted to make it a point to have that one white girl who went to Howard was gonna be my friend. She was my friend. Yeah, it was just Howard just happened for me, but I understood my blackness, and people thought Howard was probably gonna be a HBCU. It's just all black people act the same. They all like rap music, like, and it's not that. There's so many different factions of black people, and that was the most beautiful part about going to a HBCU. You got to see yourself in so many different ways, but at the same time though, we all united for one thing, and that was to get an education. Like if you came from the hood, it didn't matter. If you came from a super uppity family, it didn't matter, because we all came to get an education. If you tried to fight, there was no such thing. Because we said, oh, we are graduating. We don't believe in getting kicked out of school. Because we are paying for something to be better in this life. So I'm a big advocate for HBCUs. Get to learn about yourself and your culture, and it's for the culture. Like there's nothing like a Howard party. That's it.
I think for me, going to like a PWI coming from Abington is just so interesting, because I didn't feel like so cast out in Abington, and I think that's again because I tried so hard not to. But when I got to Westchester, I literally felt like so by myself, because again, like the black population was so small, but I wasn't like any of them. Like in high school, I had the cheer team, and so regardless of where you came from, we all had that like commonality, and that's kind of like you know how you were talking about how like Howard, everybody kind of has that same goal, and obviously it's on like a smaller scale. But for the cheer, like that, the cheer team was my like black friends, and so regardless of where they came from, we were all good friends. But then I got to Westchester, and like I wasn't from Philly, and that's when I mean, I had always heard the like, you talk so white, you're from the suburbs, da 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 da, you sound like a white girl thing. I had heard that before, but it like got so bad in college, and so I just wonder how different it would have been if I went to like a Howard or something like that.
I think in comparing experience, my sister also went to was Westchester.
That's my best friend.
That is true. But it just, to me, I learned what it meant to be being black. Of course, like in high school, I thought being black meant one thing. Again, listening to like rap
music,
being loud and all that stuff meant being black, and I was so wrong and I was so ignorant.
Right.
And then going to Howard, I learned what black meant. Yeah. It means so many different things across the board. And then talking to my sister at Westchester, where I just can't stand the black community. They don't do that common hello.
No.
Like, it's 5 of y'all on campus. I better speak. I mean, y'all have to be friends, but say hello. We gotta act like we like these people, each other.
Right. And so Carly's a year younger than me, a year behind me. But it's just so crazy how our experience, like, in the black community is exactly the same. And I've, talked to other people who go there who, like, might not have had the same experience. But, again, they, like, I feel like they might blend a little better. So do you think that schools such as Abington, do you think, because we both had the same idea that being black was a specific thing and that was being loud and whatever in high school, do you think that publicly or predominantly white suburban high schools and junior high schools, do you think that they push a narrative, whether it's conscious or not, do you think that they push a narrative that black people are supposed to be a certain type of way? That was like a really long question.
It's fine. Hopefully I'll answer it. But I don't think so. I don't think the actual school districts do. I think it goes back to the media and not being around so many different people in spaces and everything. We just see what we see on the TV. So we're saying we're watching Love and Hip Hop. That's what we think is being black, because we don't have a lot of positive things of ourselves watching TV. We finally had the Black Panther, so we can sit there and identify with that. But most of the time, saying growing up, it's always been something negative, like a negative stigma of being black. And some kids do not have positive role models where I can sit there and say, my family members have been a part of like sororities, and they had some people are part of Jack and Jill. They see different parts of like people can show different parts away of being black and everything. Not saying everything's right, but that's what I think it is and everything. But I don't think it's.
So you think it's like an internal thing?
I think it's an internal thing we think is correct, and it's not. At all. And also too, I guess you're trying to be cool and playing to like a different way and being peer pressured in school. And I think that's why some people act a certain way. Like my cousin, he thought acting a certain way and being deviant was getting him in the in crowd, where he wasn't being himself at all. And I think that's the biggest thing that I guess that happens in high schools and everything until you find yourself.
I think it's easy to kind of fall into compromising yourself for like
friends.
For friends,
Not even probably for friends.
For people to even like say hi to you when you walk in the highway, because like the hallway, because it can be like so lonely sometimes, and because I remember the black kids who weren't like scared to be themselves and to show like their interests, and everybody completely like wrote them off. Like
disregard. Like I remember this one kid. I guess I can't really say his name, but he used to wear a Naruto headband. He was really weird. He's like run through the hallways and everything. Like
I didn't know that.
Exactly. No one was his friend, but I just wonder where he is now and how happy he actually is, because he never compromised himself. Not saying I compromised myself, but I wasn't fully myself. I couldn't express myself. Maybe with two people, like trying to sit there, because you don't ever want someone to make fun of you or bully you or anything. You just want to be accepted by people, especially when there's not a lot of you. It's so messed up, but that's just the way of the world.
It is really messed up. And so I was like having a conversation with one of my friends, and we were talking about like the differences between how people are when they go to school in the suburbs and maybe like if they go to like a more urban school. Honestly, I think, again, I don't necessarily think it's a difference of, I mean, yeah, I guess education in the suburbs is typically better than in the city, but I think just what's most important is applying yourself. And I think that's like the biggest difference. And, you know, applying yourself in the best way possible, you know. I think that's definitely the biggest difference.
And I think too, it's the role models that we have.
Yeah, that too.
I guess technically, I know we're second generation college students and everything. People who are in urban settings sometimes don't have those positive role models. Not saying you have to go to college or anything. I'm a firm believer of trades, but you need to see people working or striving for a better life and living. And I think about my cousin who sits there and say, like, he used to say with us all the time, he's like, if I lived with you, I would have did this and this. I'm like, no, you didn't try to apply for school. We tried to help you, but you didn't want to because you got stuck in that get rich quick scheme. That was your fault. Because I have, like, going to Howard, I met so many different people from, like, say, urban settings and, like, again, like, super uppity settings. Like, I had a roommate, and she didn't like me because she thought I was well off and everything. Because of the way I spoke and everything.
That's why I didn't like your sister. And like, I didn't know her to not like her.
And the thing is, though, I'm like, and my sister's the nicest, sweetest person ever. She's like, and she's super funny, but I'm like, maybe that's the way I come off, and I don't mean to. And you really get to know me. I'm real as hell. I'll tell you like it is. I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, my mom's a teacher. My dad is a former corrections officer and everything. It's not, he went to jail and everything. I'm like, you honestly got to know me. I'm like, that's not it. My parents just corrected the way I spoke the whole time growing up. But I'm like, I don't judge where you come from. As long as I know you're trying to go somewhere, no one should be able to beat you down. But at the same time, though, people who, I felt like I met some people who came from urban settings who feel like they had to overcompensate. Like, one line says, I feel like she had to act super uppity or try to act super bougie. I'm like, girl, you rocking red bottoms with your refund check. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, that doesn't make you better than someone. Like, apply yourself differently.
No, I definitely agree, but I do remember, like, the first time I saw Carly in the hallway. I remember I seen you in the hallway, too. And I just remember thinking, like, these bitches got money.
Not at all.
Like that. Because I did not know. I just knew that her best friends were white. And I remember her exact outfit. The first time I seen her, I had no idea that, like, who she was related to or anything. I just saw her and I was like, that bitch thinks she's better than everybody. And, like, what? And so it's just so interesting how we can pit ourselves against other black women or black people in general. We're always
competition, and, like, and never uniting. And that's funny you said that, because I got to think about my sister. She had a completely different experience from, like, elementary to high school compared to me. So, as you said, Carly had, her best friends were two white girls. And I want to say she had struggled with feeling, like, beautiful and everything. I think my sister's the prettiest person in the whole entire world. I'm like, I call her beautiful sister, and she gets so mad at me. But, like, of course, white girls had this straight hair, and Carly has nappy hair, so she had a hard time understanding that she was beautiful compared to her, like, her white friends. Even in high school, she still didn't have black friends. But that's because Carly's a different type of person. People wrote her off because she loves to read books. Not saying black people don't read. She loves to read books and do, like, different types of things that weren't considered cool. Whereas growing up, I had, I guess, the core group of black friends who I still talk to. All my friends are college educated, who did get to see the world, who traveled and everything, who were in those honors classes where some girls didn't apply themselves, who were loud in the hallways. Carly didn't, I guess her year didn't have those black girls.
Yeah, I feel like they all kind of were like I feel like they stopped in, like, my 2014
and
year.
Now they're cool and stuff, and they're doing what they're supposed to, but in school they were just, I guess, trying to go with the in crowd, quote unquote.
What was I about to say? Damn.
What you said about those girls in high school, like, her year. I'm trying to think no one was in her year, like, that was super cool, but.
Oh, no. I was going to say, I just feel like, at least for me, I had two things, because one, you brought up hair, so that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. So I recently did an interview, and we were talking about my hair texture, because I have very thick hair, 4C hair, and we talked about what it was like growing up with my hair type in the suburbs, and I kind of touched on it before when I was talking about, like, washing my hair, but she asked me, like, do I think I would have felt comfortable wearing my hair like this in high school and junior high? And I really had to like think about it because I don't really know the answer to the question. I don't think I would have, and I think again it just goes back to like, and again like our experiences have been different, but I think I was just so willing to compromise like myself, not even just for like the white crowd, but for the black crowd too.
That's what I was saying. Like I feel like the hair situation at that time, natural hair was still considered negative.
Yeah.
So this had nothing to do with anything. I guess like European standards are still imposed on us. If you want to blame a white person, that's why. But I think in high school, that being natural was so far gone. Yeah. I had the weaves, I had the braids, I had the fake ponytails. I had everything. My hair was always done laid. My hair was blue too. So
did you have blue?
I had blue hair. So that was also being different. I had girls make fun of me because I had blue hair. They said, "Why are you trying to be white?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Girl, you mad because I have blue hair? This is cool." And luckily I had friends who stood up for me. They were like, "She's just being cool and different." But natural hair, that just wasn't a thing. Now, considering myself beautiful in high school, maybe not. Maybe that's just something internalized as me. But being black, because at the same time though, so now I'm trying to cut you off.
That's good.
I think you can say being beautiful is someone validating yourself, seeing like boys in high school. Because I didn't date in high school at all because I would sit there and say, did black boys like black girls in high school? No, not at all. Why? I don't.
I disagree.
You disagree? I was saying after the fact, like I had guys sit there and tell me that like we want to talk to you so much, but we thought you were too good for us. Like you tried, and I'm like, no, never. I never felt that way. But I felt like they were always chasing after they were going after the white girls for some reason, or they would date the same black. I guess you can sit there and say they were dating the same people in that pool, and I was like, I just didn't understand that.
Yeah.
So
most of the girls in my high school, like who were like the prettiest and the most like beautiful girls, were all black. Like, and that's who like even like the white kids try to talk to. So
really.
It was like,
that's
it was very different. Like,
that's so interesting because it's not like that at all in Abington. The black boys go for the white girls, unless it's like a super light skin black girl, or she has like
predominantly white over there. So
but yours wasn't.
Yeah, it was like a mixed bunch. It was like you had kids like maybe from the suburbs who were black, and then you also had kids like who came from the city too, from the inner city. So it was like you had the less fortunate kids. You also had the suburban white kids. You even had like the white trash kids, you know what I mean? So it was all like together, but it was still like in a suburban type of area, which was like kind of weird. So it was like no matter what you saw, you had, like I said, predominantly like the prettiest girls in high school were the black girls, you know what I mean? And if you had those pretty white girls, and like the black kids wouldn't even like mess with them, like they knew like the white kids were gonna like those pretty white girls, you know what I mean? So like for us, it was like I never even associated myself with like trying to highlight like a cute white girl. It was always like black.
Right. So the area you sound from sounds like a lot like Abington because it sounds like the same makeup, but the way that black men in Abington, at least from when I was there and Chlesea was there, it's just so different. Like they thought the black girls were cute. I'm not gonna say that they didn't, but that's not who they went for because they thought that we were ratchet or like there was like a specific type of black girl that the black men in Abington were looking for. They were petite and they had like butts and they had the long hair and
I guess what's in now that I call them ambiguous looking girls.
Yeah,
like you're not black, but you're not white.
Yeah.
Maybe you're Latina, like, and also too, we're 2 grades apart. So we had like I guess like two separate like.
Yeah.
Like the only time like black guys in my school would go for the white girl like if she was like acting black, you know what I mean? Like if she were like acting like a typical black girl would like loud or
even that language is dangerous
exaggerated, you know what I mean? It would more or less like I said for like in my high school it would be like the black guys would like generally just go for the black girls unless they were like a kid who wasn't necessarily always with black people. They always like the kid with the Naruto headband, like it'd be those type of black kids, and they would talk to those type of white girls. You know what I mean? So it would just depend on who you were necessarily as a person and what you liked. You know.
But see, you said it right there. Something you said the quote unquote typical black girl, and that's one of the things that made my experience so much harder in a predominantly white suburb because I tried to be the typical black girl, the quote unquote typical black girl. But really, what is that? And that's really like the point of why I even wanted to do this show. Period, is because there's like no such thing as a typical black girl.
When I say typical, I mean stereotypical. Like it's this stereotypical of like
the
what
stereotypical
a caricature of a black girl would be, or a caricature of how a black guy would be. Like I remember like some white girl I was talking to, she was like, you know, you really don't like talk like you know them over there in the hall. I'm just like, bitch, I'm supposed to talk. What you mean? Like I mean, it doesn't. That didn't register to me right away. But then like later on, I was like, oh, well, she wanted me to be like Jamal over here. You know what I'm saying? She wanted to be like, yeah, but she didn't. She wasn't trying to accept me to be like Kobe, which was the kid from the suburbs. You know, who had, I guess, that stereotypical blackness, but also could hold a genuine conversation without throwing 12 niggas in there or like whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So those situations are just weird. Like I don't know.
I just think for me, like, it was just so hard finding my identity and figuring out who I really was, because not only, like, can we be our worst enemy, I feel like the black community can be our worst enemy as well. And that's something that I definitely faced in high school, more so college, I guess. I stopped caring at some point in college, but it's just, I don't know.
I think about colorism, too.
Oh, yeah. That's
because, like, to me, colorism means absolutely nothing. My dad is super dark and my mom is super fair.
Very light
so
skin,
that's how you get me. But
she's so pretty.
So my mom taught me like being light doesn't mean anything. She considered like you may be light, but there's nothing in your head. You can go. And that's what she tells her like kindergartners now. Like she has one little girl. I'm going on a tangent. She wears lipstick, thinks she's the cutest thing, but she's like she'll touch like there's nothing up here. She won't touch. She's like there's nothing up here, so you're not cute.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting there talking to like people like, oh, you can always get you're cute for a black girl, like or you're considered light skin. I had a guy in college telling me that. He's like you're the lightest I would like darkest I would go. And I'm like what? That's what? I'm like I'm just brown. Or so I had a girl so like no you're considered like you're dark skin. I'm like girl I'm just brown.
Right.
But
I got that a lot too.
And I'm just like I'm just so confused. But consider dating.
Oh wow, thank you.
I was like
I'm black nigga.
And I was like I think you're light skin. Okay. But consider dating and everything, I just maybe was small-minded of me, but at the same time, I know black guys who sit there and say, one day black girls because we're too dark and everything, our features weren't white enough, and that would suck. But I knew that to me, I was like, so you didn't love yourself.
Right.
I was like, I may not be super beautiful, but I was like, I know I love myself. I can't see myself not being black.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that.
I never want to see myself not being
Exactly, but I know some guys would go out their way, especially in high school, to only date white girls.
Yeah.
Because they thought that was better. And I was like, oh, you just don't love yourself. Even like, at the time, my cousin, I didn't understand him because I would sit there, we would run around outside, playing the pool, and I remember him sitting in the shade like a weirdo, bundled up. He was like, I can't get any darker. And he's my skin tone. And I was like, what is wrong with you?
Have you ever, because like you said, you know, the black guys at your school, you know, they were more or less attracted to the white girls. Were you ever attracted to any white guys?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I am. Like, still, open to everything, so.
I thought they were, like, okay, but, like.
Were they, like, the bro kind of white guys? Or they, like, kind of like the niggas kind of white guys?
No.
Personally, I always had a boyfriend, so.
That is true.
So I wasn't really, like, looking at anybody like that, but, like, there were white guys who I thought were cute, but, like, for me, it was never, like, I would date them. Because I just think that, like, our brains and black boys' brains in high school, at least in our area, were just wired different.
Because I only ask that because, like, I see so much nowadays where, like a black man will be, like, scrutinized, like, dating outside of his race, whereas, like, a black woman could do that, and it's not really much of an issue. Like, people, like, praise black women for, oh, yeah, like, she's dating a white man, she leveled up, like, she got money now, like, all type of shit. It's just, like, I think it's such a double standard.
That's like a whole nother show.
That's another, another thing.
I'll bring it back to the high school things. It was a few girls there who actually did date a few white boys and everything, because, like, to me, I even thought that was weird. I was like, well, like, because, like, they were, like, grown white boys. Like, they were, like, like, those type of white boys.
Like,
and
the
be
frat.
Like, and like I said, and the real cute black girls would be messing around. I was like, yo, what's a bunch of boys? Like, goddamn. Like, shit.
I don't know, because I don't really recall seeing that many black girls dating.
I think that's two things. So, for the black boys and white girls, I just felt like they didn't even try. That's the only thing they went for. So that was
like the first from Rip.
I have no problem problem with you dating outside your. That's not the issue. I have a problem when that's all you like. I mean, you like what you like, but did you even give yourself a try?
Yeah.
That's why I didn't see. I was like, why is that your standard of beauty?
Yeah.
That's what I had a problem with. For I guess white boys approaching black girls, I think that's a hard thing. It's like I think they thought it was hard. They thought it was like taboo in a way.
I honestly think it's a fetish whenever I see white guys with like black girls.
Well, most of the time they're
I think
white
that's
guys
such
and black
a
girls.
fetish.
Only because you only see the same type of black women dating white guys.
Yeah.
They're always like natural, Afrocentric. Sometimes, I mean not all times, but that's what you see. I'm like, y'all won't come up to
And
me
their
with
men
my
is like so fine.
all time.
Yeah,
I'm just like confused. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. But so I wanted to say one more thing, and then I'll open the floor to you, and then we'll end the show, because this was great. But I think for me too, my experience being in like a predominantly white suburb or growing up in one, I think it forces you again to just like find beauty within yourself, because you're like, I feel like it's you have to, or feel like you have to compare yourself to the white girls you see who have the long hair, or who like have the light eyes, or who just like dumb stuff. Like I feel like something that a lot of black girls go through, and my cousin is 14 and she's kind of going through this now. When you grow up in like predominantly white areas, hair is again a big thing, and we go through this period where we break off our hair trying to get it straightened every single day.
My hair used to be popping.
I used to straighten my hair. I used to dye it because, and not even like consciously thinking that I wanted to like blend in as much as possible. But I guess like that is what it is, because, and again, like I guess it would be cool to talk to like somebody who is from like an urban area and see like their experience. But I've only heard the same thing from like black girls who grew up in white suburbs.
I don't know. I think for hair wise, I was always different. Like I had blue hair. I rocked a shortcut in high school.
But that's so dope.
I know it was pop.
Because
Shout
I
out
was
to my
just
nana.
not there.
I think at that point I didn't care. I was trying so hard to go against the grain of what meant to be black, and was to prove so hard that it was something different, and I was so wrong because I was so small-minded to think it was one way to be black, and there's so many different ways. But I think it goes back to, I wish, not saying my parents didn't call me beautiful, I wish someone told me that it's okay to be beautiful, it's okay to be different, it's okay to be smart. I think it just goes back to people, especially being, no matter where, urban settings and suburbs, especially suburbs, you need to be told that you're beautiful because you're so different from your peers in those schools.
You have to.
I think that's what we just need to be told all the time.
And I mean, regardless of why you decided to do what you did with your hair, I think it's really dope that like you felt able to even like do something like that, you know, because a lot of people don't feel that way. But that was the last thing I wanted to say. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Before you go,
Thanks for having me. Advice: go to HBCUs. Only reason I'm pinning that little plug in, I felt super accepted, and I understood my blackness more. I was around people who understood me, and then I feel like there's nothing like HBCU experience. Not only do you meet super educated black people, it's fun, and the world's not like this, and people will use that as a negative thing, like world's not all black, but it's great to be immerse yourself in people like yourself, because this world is hard. And also the connections that you will make at HBCU, it's popping. That's how you get jobs, y'all. As I don't have a job.
And I think too, one thing that I wish was different, I wish predominantly white suburban schools like honed in more on teaching black history, or not just, not even just black, I'm going to speak to black history because I am black, but just like being more inclusive in general, so that we don't have to necessarily go through those, I need to find ways to love myself. And obviously, like, your family should tell you that you're beautiful, but it would be nice to naturally feel that way, because I don't think that our white counterparts necessarily go through that as much.
Yes, most certainly, we really do need to learn more about black history, because how many times you want to be told about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks? It's not, there's so many things. Slavery.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But like even like slavery
that's
is
all black
glossed
history
over.
is slavery. It's all black history.
Because they I'm not gonna go off on a tangent, but I feel like white schools reinforce the Black struggle narrative.
I will say Abington did not that well because there's so much of Black history covered. But I will say I did learn a decent amount of Black history at Abington compared to other kids who did not come. And then going to HBCU, I knew more than some of those kids there. But we really do need to be taught our history and why we're so special, and our contributions to this country.
Yeah, right.
Because we can contribute so much and we just don't appreciate it. Yeah. And we're the biggest consumers in this country.
I think my last message would be that suburbs are for Black people.
They are.
Everywhere is for Black people. And that was the last little tidbit I had. So thank you so much for being on my show. And thank you guys for watching. I'm not necessarily sure what like next week's episode is going to look like, but it's going to be one. And when I find the missing episode, which is actually kind of cool that I have one, I feel like it's like in a vault or something. But